John Deere made a bet. The bet was simple. The future of farming is not steel, it is software. Set a target. Software at 10% of entire company revenue by 2030. Chase the subscription margin instead of building a better combine. And this spring, the receipt came due. The big farm equipment division, the tractors, the combines, the machines that built the green name. Sales dropped 14% in a single quarter. Operating profit in that same division fell almost 40%. The part of the company chasing the software dream is the exact part falling apart the fastest. Start with the math, because the math is the whole reason this happened. John Deere runs two very different kinds of business under one green paint job. There is the iron, the actual tractor, the welded steel and rubber and diesel that a farmer drives into a field, and there is the software, the data service, the subscription that rides on top of the machine. Those two things do not make money the same way. Industry analysts at Bernstein estimate farming software runs about 85% gross margin. The actual equipment runs closer to 25%. Read that gap slowly. For every $1 of software a Deere customer pays, 85 cents is pure profit. For every $1 of steel and iron the same company builds, welds, ships, and services, 25 cents. To a bean counter in Moline, that is not a hard choice. The machine looks like a low-margin nuisance you have to build to sell the high-margin fee. So the men in Moline stopped thinking like a company that builds the best combine in the world. They started thinking like a company that rents you access to the one you already paid for. That is where the executive layer put its chips. The plan on paper was beautiful. Sell the tractor once, then charge the farmer for the tractor forever. A yearly bill just to fully read, diagnose, and repair the machine he already owns. One version of that bill is real and has a price tag. Operation Center Pro service, rolled out the summer before. $195 a year for every single machine, just so an owner or an independent shop can read and clear codes, reprogram, calibrate, and repair. Multiply that across every combine and tractor in the country. You can see the recurring fortune Moline was staring at. And it worked for a while. Exactly the way they hoped. This is the part that should stop every farmer cold. The Federal Trade Commission put a number on it. John Deere's repair restrictions, the lockout that funneled farmers back to authorized dealers, boosted Deere's own revenue by about $6 billion a year. $6 billion. And the commission said that restricted repair business had become one of the most profitable segments the entire company had. The lockout was not a bug. It was the business plan. The commission spelled out how the cage actually squeezed the farmer. When a machine went down, the owner could not simply call the cheapest wrench in the county. He was funneled back to an authorized dealer. Repair labor rates running somewhere around $130 to $200 an hour. A job an independent shop down the road might handle for a fraction of that, instead ran through the one channel the software allowed. Every hour of that markup, multiplied across a country full of green machines, is part of how the restricted repair business grew into one of the most profitable corners of the entire company. The farmer paid the premium. The dealer channel collected it. The recurring revenue climbed exactly the way the slide in Moline promised it would. The problem is that a plan built on squeezing your own most loyal customer only works until that customer figures out what is happening to him. A John Deere tractor used to be the machine you could trust to fix yourself. That was the whole reputation. A man in a field 100 miles from the nearest dealer could pull a wrench, chase a problem, and keep the harvest moving because the machine was built to be worked on. The software strategy quietly turned that strength into a lever. The more of the tractor that lived behind a screen and a security code, the more of the repair that could be walled off and billed. Each new model year added another layer of electronics between the farmer and the fix. Each layer was another place to charge for access. The company did not get better at building combines by adding all of that. It got better at collecting a fee on the combines it already sold. Before we keep going, if this is giving you the real story nobody in Moline wants published, hit subscribe right now. No manufacturer money, no dealer relationships, just the truth. Back to it. Now sit with what that plan actually asks of a farmer. It asks him to buy a machine for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then it puts a digital cage around his own tools. His combine throws a code in October, grain ready, weather turning. The machine will not let him clear it without paying for permission. His own iron, in his own field, in the middle of his own harvest, held for a fee. The strategy that looked so clean on a slide in Moline looks like extortion from the seat of the tractor. And farmers are not slow. They felt the cage close year after year, the resentment built. And it did not stay quiet. The kill switch at the center of all this is not a rumor. It is documented in the most dramatic way imaginable. In 2022, Russian troops looted a John Deere dealership in occupied Melitopol in Ukraine, hauling off about 27 machines worth nearly $5 million, combines, a tractor, a planter, dragged more than 700 miles into Chechnya. Every single machine was remotely locked through its GPS. The thieves got the iron home. The iron would not even power on. A company in Illinois reached across an entire continent and switched off a combine like a phone. Farmers heard that story and understood it instantly. Because if Deere can brick a stolen combine in Chechnya, it can brick the one parked in their own barn. The feature sold as theft protection is the same feature that locks a paying owner out of his own harvest. That is what the software bet was built on. Here is where the bet turns on its maker. Because the very strategy built to print $6 billion a year is the strategy now costing the company far more than that. Karma showed up with lawyers. This past April, a class action settlement, $9.9 million. John Deere agreeing to give farmers 10 years of access to the digital tools to diagnose and repair their own equipment. Covering repairs paid back to 2018. That was the first bill. The second was bigger, and it came from the government. July 8th of this year, John Deere settled an antitrust lawsuit brought by the Federal Trade Commission and 5 states. Under a 10-year order watched by the Commission and the states, Deere now has to hand farmers and independent shops the same repair resources it gives its own dealers. Reading and clearing fault codes, reprogramming electronic parts, restarting a machine after an emissions shutdown. Access to technical manuals. Think about the shape of that. It took 2 settlements and a federal antitrust case in a single year to pry the wrench back out of the company's hands. The lockout was real enough that the government had to break it open. The 85% margin dream ended in a courtroom. And while the lawyers were circling, the customers were already voting in the only language a business truly understands. Money. New tractor sales in the first quarter of this year, down 8.8%. Farmers stopped buying the shiny new green machines. But here is the turn nobody in Moline can spin away. Used late-model tractor prices in that same quarter, up 12.5%. People are paying more for the older iron than they did a year ago. Bidding each other up for machines that are 5 and 10 years old. Machines built before the deepest layers of the lockout. Machines a man can actually fix in his own shed. The new equipment is sitting on the lot. The old equipment is climbing in value. That gap is the loudest signal in American agriculture right now. At a spring farm show, a new tractor carried a sticker price of $1.3 million. $1.3 million. For a single machine, the farmer may not even be allowed to fully repair without paying for the privilege. So he looks at that sticker. He looks at the dependable, older machine in his shed. He makes the rational call. He keeps the old iron. Every farmer who makes that choice is a sale John Deere does not get. That is the software bet backfiring in the most direct way possible. They tried to turn the machine into a subscription. The customer decided the machine from before the subscription was worth more. Now the top line collapse. Because it tells the same story from above. 3 years ago, fiscal 2023, John Deere posted record net income of $10.166 billion, best year in company history. Then the slide began. Next year, net income fell to about $7.1 billion. Year after that, about $5 billion. In roughly 2 years, the company cut its profit close to in half, and its own guidance for the year ahead promises more decline in the big farm business specifically. You might ask how a company sliding like that still beat Wall Street in its latest quarter. It did, on paper. Total net income of $1.773 billion. $6.55 per share. Analysts nodded. But that headline is a mask. The reason the quarter looked fine has nothing to do with farming. construction, and forestry. Sales up 29%, riding a wave of data center and infrastructure work. Small ag and turf, up 16%. Concrete and dirt carried the company, while the core combine business, the actual reason John Deere exists, fell through the floor. Sales down 14%, operating profit down nearly 40%. A backhoe was standing on top of the hole, so nobody upstairs had to look down, and the people who actually build the machines are paying for the software dream too. Across 2024, John Deere cut more than 2,000 jobs in Iowa and Illinois. Between October 2023 and September 2025, more than 3,500 jobs shed in total. Then this year, another 610 layoffs announced across the Midwest as the company shifts some loader production to a new plant in Mexico. Remember the timeline. The record profit year was 2023. The layoffs came right alongside it and right after it. This was not a company fighting to survive. This was a company at the richest moment in its history, deciding it could do without the very workers who got it there. While the executive layer chased a margin on a subscription, the factory towns along the Mississippi that put green tractors on every continent are watching the line go quiet. And the reason on the whiteboard in Moline was a software number, not a shortage of demand for good iron. So follow where the harvest is going instead, because the corn and the wheat still have to come in. And somebody is building the machine that brings it home without the cage. Increasingly, that somebody is CLAAS, a German family company that never went down the lockout road. Their combine line is the Lexion, a wide-body, high-capacity harvester built to eat through grain and do exactly what a combine is supposed to do without arguing with the man in the cab. Farmers who spent their whole lives running green machines are climbing down out of John Deere combines and up into a CLAAS Lexion, and they are telling their neighbors. That is the part that stings in Moline. CLAAS is not a giant conglomerate trying to bury John Deere. It is a family firm that simply kept building the machine a farmer buys, owns, and runs. And let John Deere talk itself into a software dream. There is also AGCO, an American company out of Duluth, Georgia, owner of Fendt and Massey Ferguson. AGCO raised its guidance and its dividend this year and posted growth while Deere lowered its own outlook. Read that side by side. One company guiding its farm business down and shedding workers to chase a software margin. Another raising its dividend and guiding up because it just kept selling honest iron. Even Kubota is catching the loyalty that green used to hold by default. None of these makers cracked some secret. They simply refused the bet John Deere made. They kept selling a machine a farmer buys once and owns outright. They let him keep his own wrench. They treated the sale as the start of a relationship instead of the start of a billing cycle. That used to be the ordinary way to build a tractor. John Deere decided it was leaving money on the table, chased the fee, and handed its rivals the one thing money cannot buy back quickly: trust. Drop a comment below. Were you one of the farmers who felt that cage close? The code you could not clear, the service truck that took 4 days, the bill that made no sense on a machine you already paid for? Or are you the farmer who already made the switch and never looked back? That answer from operators in this comment section is the most honest data set on what John Deere's software bet actually cost. Not the earnings call, not the press release. Your harvest. Thanks for watching FarmGear Pro. If you found this breakdown valuable, share it with a fellow farmer and comment below your thoughts on this topic. See you in the next one.